Good morning, everyone. I'm Ganesh Subramanian, founder and CEO of Stylumia. I hope all of you are keeping well and staying safe. I welcome you all to this morning Stylumia Talks. We have been having a series of talks by CEOs over the last few weeks to talk about their expert views on how any fashion and lifestyle brand or retailer can navigate the COVID challenge and come out resilient and future ready. These are the times to share and collaborate. Today, we have a very, very special guest, Abhishek Thakur from the world of data science. Abhishek is the world's first 4x Kaggle Grandmaster and currently works as a chief data scientist at boost.ai. He holds a master's degree in computer science from the University of Bonn, Germany. In his free time, he likes to take part in machine learning competitions, create YouTube videos related to applied machine learning, and is currently writing a book titled Approaching Almost Any Machine Learning Problem. Abhishek is also an advisor on board of Stylumia and has made immense contribution and continuing to do so. We will have Abhishek talk first and share his expert views on how he is seeing COVID, its impact in business and community, and how data scientists can help businesses come out of this resilient and future ready. We'll follow that with a Q&A. We have received a number of questions from the audience already. With that very brief introduction, please join me in welcoming Abhishek Thakur. Over to you, Abhishek.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Ganesh, and thank you for the very nice introduction. So we are dealing with very tough times right now, and coronavirus COVID-19 has created a lot of disruption in the industries, in many of the industries. So data scientists can definitely help with that. And so for example, like uh, 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 even directly or indirectly. So I mean, we all know that data gives you a lot of insights, and they can be life-saving during these times. So for example, data quality visualizations that can help you understand quickly what has taken others so long to collect and analyze and act smartly in time. And they can also help in critical operations, like uh, coordination mechanisms, or ensuring that equipment and resources reaches those facing the greatest need, and these kind of things. So I think there is definitely a lot of scope, and people have been uh, people in this domain, the data science domain, have been trying really hard to fix their models at this time.
Yeah, and you want to talk about anything on, for example, how companies in your spaces are coping with COVID. Maybe you are having a dividend at this point of time. People like, virtual boards for conversations and anything else which is happening in that part of the world.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about how the chatbots industry. Definitely, we have seen that people have been distancing themselves from others and trying to avoid going to banks and uh, even supermarkets, right? So, uh, but people still need a lot of information, and for that kind of information, they start calling the customer support lines. And due to such high increase in calls to these customer support, they are not able to cope up with all the requests they get. So uh, if they have chatbots or virtual assistants, people can go to the website and talk to the bot instead and get some answers. So if if you're in, like, let's say, healthcare, or if you're a hospital or something, so if you have this kind of virtual assistant, that can help you with few things that people usually ask, then customer support can probably help the ones which really need help. So that's how it's helping. And we have also seen quite a lot of increase in traffic uh, in boost from different customers. So like for banking, people are asking things like if they want, if they have some kind of loan and they are unable to pay the EMI, and it's better to talk to the bot in those cases than to some human. And it's not also advisable to go to the bank, and if the bot can help you. So I think it has been helping quite a lot. So this industry has seen a lot of impact because of coronavirus, but the traffic to the bots have increased. So people are using chatbots more and more.
Great to know that, Abhishek. And can you also share with us? You must have, you got different kind of queries. Maybe the model was not trained before during these times, and how are you coping with some of them?
Not training of model. So in the industry I work, the chatbots model is trained
Okay.
always. So it just yeah, but it cannot answer the new questions that you have. So coronavirus came, the model doesn't know the word coronavirus,
Hmm.
and somebody needs to teach it that. So we did have difficulties in the beginning when these kind of questions came, and the bot was not able to answer. At that time you fix it by adding new training data.
Hmm.
So I think that's also applicable to many different industries.
Yeah.
So like you can try to fix your model depending on the new trends that are coming in, or you can build some kind of model that work in this short period of time.
Got it. Now, see, what we are seeing, therefore, is a contactless commerce, a contactless conversation is happening, right? The people, and that's picking up. And you're also saying that the traffic is increasing. But if you have to expand to other spaces, you're from Norway, and Scandinavian their countries have taken a different position than maybe other countries in Europe. Anything that other businesses, what do you see in outside in retail? Are things changing out there? Can you share something that you are seeing in other industries? What's in restaurant happening? Maybe in retail shops if they are open.
Yeah, I think retail industry and retail restaurants have been affected quite a lot. uh, what I've seen that people are also panic buying. They were panic buying in some countries a month ago, but the situation has become a little bit normal now, at least in some countries. And that's what we should try to do and learn from the countries where the situation has stabilized,
Mm-hmm.
and try to like retail industry and uh, restaurants also started more home deliveries to keep their business going. um, and that's the same for some retail industries that went online so that people can buy their goods. So I've also seen a lot of traffic increase for uh, online shopping.
Mm-hmm.
So since people are spending more time at home, and if they if they have not been laid off, if they're working from home, and they are also shopping quite a lot online. So these kind of strategies you can adopt to to keep growing.
Have you ventured out outside these days? Visited any discretionary item like fashion, lifestyle shops
Outside?
outside in the market? Have you went around?
No, I have not. I've been home since last 1.5 months,
Okay,
and I go outside only for groceries every 2 weeks.
got it.
Yeah.
Do you see any new practices where others can learn? Any new practices? How do they handle customers these days?
Um, as in, I didn't
In terms
understand the
of how
question.
you enter the store, are there any security checks or sanity checks, health checks?
Yeah, I mean, people are people are quite educated and they follow social distancing. Some people they don't, um, but most of the people do, and that's quite good. So yeah, so when you're trying to pay in the supermarket, you have to maintain distance and talk less. And I've also seen that all the shops which are open have a disinfectant at the entrance, so you
Mhm.
disinfect your hands and then you enter the shops. And yeah, that's quite good, I think.
Got it. And anything which is happening inside the store which is very different that you observed?
Yeah, I mean, there is always a lot of demand for certain types of products.
Hmm.
So, like products like canned goods. So people are buying a lot more canned goods than before, or they probably just think that the supply chain is going to break and we are not going to get any food after a couple of weeks. So yeah, and like even for me, when if I'm going shopping for every 2 weeks now, I was shopping for 3 days or 4 days. Now I'm shopping for 2 weeks, so I'm buying much more item than usual.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's also same for even for online shopping where you have home deliveries. People are buying more items than usual.
Well, let's now shift gears. We've talked about, your retail life and what's happening in Norway. I've been listening to a very, very interesting session from University of Berkeley's computer and data science team, and they talked about a story and story of evolution of data science and how algorithms can be good and algorithms can be bad. Right here is the story. I just want to talk about that. 10 years back on pandemics, the best action that one could take is wait for patients to get sick and let them come to hospital and then we will treat them. And while this is the easiest, it's the worst way to manage a pandemic like this. And that used to be the way. Another way is to open a call center. And if there is anybody having a problem, please call us. And we will give you aid over phone and we'll also give you medical aids and get it delivered at home. Now that's also very expensive. That led to people thinking about saying that this is where an algorithm can come in and help, right? Therefore one company created an algorithm. The algorithm created the purpose of the algorithm is to predict people who are okay today but will become sick in the future, right? If you do that, then you can minimize the amount of effort and investment in treating everybody or handling everybody. For the big catch is here, the data available in the healthcare system does not have a variable called health, right? For the only way you decode health is as using cost of health, healthcare as a proxy. For this company used healthcare cost as a proxy for predicting what would be the health of patients in the time to come. Therefore, the logic was this: the higher the predicted cost was the health. For the health costs, therefore, are biased, and this company did not know that different segments of the community had different healthcare costs, both because of their affordability and also the government concessions which were available. What this created was affluent people being prioritized in the system and created a huge bias, right? And very healthy, affordable people were all up in the queue. For what the university team did was they realized that there is a huge bias in this algorithm. They spoke to that company and prioritized healthcare needs versus healthcare cost in the algorithm. And the bias was reduced by 80% and significantly improved. And that's actually the story. We are also hearing that a similar challenge right now in allocating precious healthcare resources like ventilators. A big question, right? Who to give the ventilator? To give it to the healthy people or to give it to the sick people? There is a thing saying that sick people don't improve much even if you give ventilator, therefore give ventilator to healthy people. So these are very challenging questions, and therefore data science can do a lot good with less of bias. So the question I want to pose to you is, how do you take care of biases when training the machine learning problems or any algorithm for that matter, and your
Yeah,
experience?
yeah. These kind of biases have been a problem for many different kinds of machine learning systems. So, in this particular case, people of color at any given level would end up spending less than than whites, right? And I was recently seeing something on Twitter, and someone shared about a picture of another kind of bias like this. So a person of color is holding a temperature gun and testing the temperature of another person, and the model predicts that the person is holding a gun. And when the person changes, when it's not a person of color, n- it's a temperature gun, the prediction.
Yeah.
So yeah, these kind of biases always exist, and that for some people it reduces the trust they have in these kind of machine learning models, and they should be properly evaluated before putting into production. So that's one of the things that you can do to avoid biases like this. So um, you can try to take it for this particular problem. You can try to take a look at some kind of um, variables like how what are the avoidable costs, things like this,
Mhm,
or a number of chronic conditions that need a treatment in a year.
mhm.
And so it's all about looking at different variables and then trying to see that your model is performing the same for all the classes of people,
Mm.
because that's how these healthcare models should be like. um, uh, I think if you are validating your model in a proper way, any kind of model, whether it be this one or another one, and evaluating it on all kinds of different scenarios, then you can avoid these kind of biases.
Yeah. So, I'm sure there are a lot of data science practitioners who are watching this video, and also business professionals watching this video. Now, if you can talk about what are the three things you think that a data scientist should be aware or taking care so that they minimize the biases in approaching the problem, any problem for that matter.
Yeah, so three things: feature engineering,
Mm-hmm.
a good uh, looking at it. Also, it just doesn't include building new features, but it includes looking at different features and how they affect the output.
Mm-hmm.
You can take a look at your cross validation system or your validation system, how you plan to evaluate your model. Because for models like this, if you just have a simple evaluation, I think it's probably going to fail.
Mm-hmm.
And the third thing is minimizing this overfitting, and that's achieved by looking at features and cross validation systems. So you, by overfitting, I mean that you don't try to make your model perfect only on the training data, but it should be very much more generalizable.
No, no, got it, Abhishek. I think very valuable inputs for data scientists, and also for the business professionals to look at these models and ask these questions. On whether this model performs across various scenarios. But
Yeah.
I think it's very important, because that's also helps. It's not just that the data scientists all the time, and business people also understand various scenarios that the business could go through with their experience.
Yeah, and these kind of situations, like only a data scientist on his own cannot do models like this without involving business people and expect to reduce biases. If the data scientist is a business guy, if he understands the business very, if he or she understands the business really well, then probably they can. But if they don't, they should try to involve more people who understand the business itself.
Absolutely. I think, sometimes, people say that data science is a function, right? I think it needs to be embedded into the business. Finally, we are going to take very tough decisions using these models. I think it
Yeah.
needs to be together, right? I think wonderfully put. So I'll move on to the questions from the audience, Abhishek. Let me take in the order that we have received these questions. Maybe
Sure.
you would have addressed in some form. Maybe we can go into some more depth here. The first question is from Praveen, who asks, how data scientists can help the world in this precious time. I'm sure it's an open question. But if you have to give some advice.
Yeah, I mean, I touched this point a little bit before in the talk. Yeah, there are many different ways in which a data scientist can help directly or indirectly. So I'll give you one example, right? So my wife is working as an intern in a company, and that provides healthcare professionals to hospitals, and depending on the demand. So it's kind of a recommendation system uh, where you where you have different hospitals and they have different slots, and you try to put nurses there. So you recommend what kind of people would be suitable for this kind of job, and in this time period. So this is like one of the situation that you will say like recommendation system, it's just a recommendation system, but how useful is this recommendation system at this time? uh, it's very useful because there's so much demand for healthcare professionals, and they're doing such good job. And there is a lot of demand, but the supply is very less. And so you have to create this kind of algorithm that decides how to optimize the demand for healthcare professionals. So this is one of the situations, and there are many different kinds of um, things that you can do to as a data scientist to help during these times. So probably you can try to, many people have also tried to build prediction models. So for coronavirus, the number of increase in cases or when it's going to end, so you can try to invest time there. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Abhishek. I think, particularly, I think your wife is doing a very, very noble job. And if I have to generalize that, it is about resource allocation, right? Resource allocation today is going to be, because every government, every organization is constrained on resources. Now, resources can be anything, healthcare services, or it's healthcare equipments. It could be the amount of capital you have, amount of inventory you have. If you're into retail, for the maybe, what to now the question is to say that how can data scientists help in better allocating resources for any company that they work with, irrespective of the domain. So
Yeah.
let me just move on to the next question. How do we create a project on COVID-19, particularly the corona detection using machine learning? Can machine learning detect the virus itself is a question.
Yeah, my suggestion would be not to do that. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, yeah, it can definitely help, but machine learning depends on a certain thing called data, and lots of data is very much useful. So I saw like 1 month ago, people were building machine learning models to predict coronavirus, and their accuracies were 99% and 100% accurate. If their models are so accurate, why we are not able to prevent this, right? So now people are trying to predict the spread of coronavirus in different countries, and for that they are using data from the countries where the pandemic was there, and it has subsided now. So there's not so many cases. So they are trying to learn the trends from one country and apply it to other countries, uh, and modifying models based on certain other factors like population and all other kind of things, different features, and trying to predict the number of cases in the coming days. And that's actually performing quite good in a few cases. But if you're just trying to build a model for coronavirus detection using machine learning just as a fun project, my suggestion would be not to do that. uh, it's uh, it's more like you have to understand the data first, and you have to collect a lot of data. A lot of people have also created machine learning models to detect coronavirus from images, x-ray images. So people took lung x-ray images and they try to predict if this consists of coronavirus, and that kind of analysis will perform on 25 x-ray images, and they got an accuracy of 99%, 100%. So these kind of things should be avoided, and you can try to build a lot of better models for this situation.
Yeah, got that, Abhishek. I think your recommendation is focus on the key issues on hand. how either the government or the companies can manage their current situation is and particularly when data is not available, what would you do? So it's a question of data. I think that's key. So
Yeah,
let me
it's
move on to the
essential.
next. Yeah, let me move on to the next question, Abhishek. This is from Som Patak. His question is that for organizations using ML models to take decision, it would be a tough time since the data will show a completely different trend from their development sample, especially in banks and financial organizations. What's your suggestion on this? I'm sure it's beyond banks and financial, because the past data is not reflecting what's happening right now.
Yeah.
So what's your
So there are many different ways as a data scientist. If I have to talk about this question, then I'm thinking of how you can simulate data, how you can try to add new features depending on the current situation to your machine learning models, which make these kind of decisions for you. So you have to add some new features to your machine learning models and try to make your model update more frequently. If you have a model lying around which was trained 2 years ago on certain number of features, probably that's not valid anymore. And depending on the situation, it's going to be much more incorrect. So to address that, you have to learn from new trends, add new features, try to learn from what kind of models did industries like this built in different countries, and try to incorporate those features in your model. So yeah, like for banking and financial organizations, some countries have also seen transaction rates go very low, and some countries have seen very high. So it totally depends on what kind of audience you serve, and based on that, try to build features that that capture the audience and incorporate them in your machine learning models.
yeah. Abhishek, interestingly, you mentioned about simulate data when you don't have data, right? That's very interesting, right? And
Yeah.
can you just give one example of, how would you have approached a simulation so that the audience can actually understand that deeper?
Okay, yes, that's a very difficult question, and I was so this is something that I would try to do.
Hmm.
Um, Let me think if I can come up
In
with
other
an
words, a
example.
synthetic data generation,
Yeah,
right?
it's more of a synthetic data generation.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you use these kind of approaches when let's say, like I'll give you one example.
yeah.
In general machine learning, when you have very few positive samples, you try to add more positive samples to the data.
Hmm.
So let's say your proportion of positive samples is 0.05%.
Mm-hmm.
So most of your samples are negative, and only very small number is positive samples. So for a model to learn something from this data, you if you have millions of samples, out of those 0.05 is nothing. So you try to add more positive samples to it, or you try to do some kind of sampling of data to make the ratio much better.
Got
So
it.
you can try these kind of approaches.
No, absolutely. Which means that infusing data and creating data from the existing one, and also maybe right sampling, are two ways that you could look at, handling the current situation. In fact, the
True.
next question from Shaurya is also similar. During this disruption, old data is not relevant, etc. So I'll go to the second question that he has asked. When is an organization ready for an ML or a data science project? Is there an infrastructure or a cultural check which is required? No, basically organizational readiness for data science.
In general.
Yeah, in general, when is an organization ready? Is there any prerequisites for a company to adopt data science?
Yeah, I mean, these are the times, like in general, not related to coronavirus, but these are times I've seen in the last couple of years that every company, every kind of industry uh, is trying to get into data science, even even when they don't have any real projects for data scientists to work on, and they end up building kind of linear regression models, which is also good. It's not bad, but some of them don't even get chance to do that. So first you have to identify uh, the problem that you're facing, and then you have to see, okay, do you have any kind of data that solves this problem, that would help you solve this problem. And when you have identified these problems, certain problems, that you want to solve, then you can go and talk to some data scientists and see what they think, if they can be solved. And if they can be, then you hire data scientists, and that's when you should start a machine learning or data science related project.
Yeah. Hey, that's simple and straight, Abhishek. I think so start from the problem and look for the data that you have, then approach data scientists and see whether the feasibility of solving that with whatever you have right now.
Yeah.
So that's a good construct. Let me move on to the next question. This is looking at how this pandemic, sorry, I don't know the name of the person here, but looking at how this pandemic has impacted the mental health of so many people worldwide. What advice would you give to companies working in mental health space? How can they use data science to create value apart from chatbots?
Okay. Why apart from chatbots? um, yeah, mental health has taken a toll because people have been spending more and more time working from home, and it's even for people who say that they are not very social, it's taking a toll. So one cannot spend their whole day in front of computers. And when you're working in offices, you have like, okay, you work 8 hours, 9 hours, but when you're working from home, you have no hours, no fixed hours. So several strands of work are being explored in improving mental health using data science. So like mobility metrics, time series, some kind of emotion sensing, these kind of things, and um, dementia diagnosis, let's say. So analyzing mental issues and providing remedies of early detection. You can also do it using some machine learning models or some kind of analysis, and as well as go more forward to try to build a model to cure it. So yeah, that's what I think.
So there is huge possibilities in every space, right? Whether it is, it's all a question of asking the right questions, getting the right data, and solving that. And as I can see, Abhishek, that there is huge opportunity to also not only identify mental health problems maybe proactively with some of the data sets that you talked about.
Yeah. So if you allow researchers to identify these kind of risk factors, if we are talking about mental illness, then you're giving people the right treatment, and tracking how well they improve these. If you track these kind of things, and or investigate how we could improve mental health conditions from developing itself.
Absolutely, it's all about predicting, maybe ahead of its time, so that we minimize the overall risk. Looks
Yeah,
like theme across
definitely. And
all sectors.
mental health is not, it's not a new issue. It has been there for a long time, and yeah, people have tried doing a lot of things about it. And it's not like only machine learning or data science can help, but there are many other things that can help these kind of issues.
Sure, we'll move on to the next question. That's from Sharath Puranik. What should data scientists learn from events such as these called black swan events? And maybe the next question also from him is, what skill or knowledge should data scientists learn in times like these?
Yeah. So black swan, even for people who are not aware of this, it's normally an event that comes as a shock and has a profound effect, like this current pandemic. So people, data scientists or people in general, have to realize the importance of resources and technology, and their research and development divisions give them deep insights into local needs, and they have the ability to produce solutions which help their business at scale. But so the data scientists have to try to learn and understand. One thing that you learn from these kind of events is even your best model is going to fail. So how would you try to incorporate different ideas to your best models, to so that it doesn't fail and generalize in much better manner, and in circumstances that it cannot see. So this is something that you can learn, skills and knowledges for data scientists to learn in during these times. I think if you're talking in general, it depends on what kind of skills you already know. So you probably you can refresh those kind of skills. And if you are quite new in this field and you're working started working in an industry and building some machine learning models, uh, and you see that your model is failing during these times, so how would you what ideas do you have to improve these kind of models? So more focus on feature engineering, changing your validation strategy, these kind of things you can try to learn.
So the next question, Abhishek, is that how can you help the overall community? Sorry, how can we help the overall community as a data scientist in overcoming such hard times?
um yeah, I mean, there are many different ways. So it's also related to the first question that was asked. How that I think it was about different industries and their roles and during these times. So pandemics like this can they have the ability to cripple the economics of affected countries. And companies that have like strong digital capabilities, they're excelling in these times. And others might need to find innovative ways to minimize the impact. So collaboration of technology with business could be one of the biggest needs. The data scientists, if we are talking about data scientists, they might need to develop the ability to rapidly evaluate ongoing changes and develop some kind of response and coordinate and adapt to different events that unfold during these times.
Yeah, I think one theme is coming, Abhishek, is that for data scientists these are not easy days because a lot of your models may not work. You have to be very innovative, creative now. And data science also, it's coming as as a space where you don't get results immediately. So how does one cope with these times where results are not favorable, right? And is there any skill, or how do you personally develop this ability to bring outcome when a lot of your experiments don't work?
Yeah. So yeah, it is very difficult question to answer to be honest.
Yeah, is there something personally you manage when you are going through these dead ends, right? Your models are not working. How do you keep yourself motivated towards the outcome?
So you start with a problem, and I mean you should not you you have a fixed way of approaching a problem, right? You start with the problem, you try to build some kind of benchmark, and you try to improve on the benchmark. So that's usually how people work, how data scientists work. And when they see that, okay, my model is not performing well on this new kind of data, what can they it depends on what can they do to, or what can they think of to come up of new ideas that they can try to do and improve their models and try to make them more generalizable. There are
It's
many
important to
different
be.
ways. There are actually many different ways in which you can do this. So you can try to build simple short term models, right? If this pandemic is affecting anywhere between a couple of months to a year, you have to build simple and short term models, and sometimes simple model perform very well, so don't try to complicate things more. So like you can do some kind of moving average to predict for next few days. And when you see how the figures have decreased or increased, you simply like do some kind of multiplication with your predictions to uh, use some kind of coefficient, multiply your predictions, or decrease your predictions uh, to suit that curve. And There is also one more thing that you can try to do is find some other country which is ahead of you when it comes to coronavirus curve, and see the changes in demand there, and you can try to model your data in a similar manner.
Absolutely. I think Abhishek, very well said, right? But it's not about all the time using sophisticated models, right? Sometimes simplicity can help. And in terms of your horizon, also, you can look at short term. Maybe, you would be able to solve some of your problems of today by looking at a shorter time horizon, and really helpful. For the next question is from Don Eleman. What Don is asking is, for a global manufacturing company, how you would help to optimize or manage inventory, in particular raw materials and finished goods, using data scientists. So I think in general, maybe if I have to just elaborate, it's again a resource allocation problem.
Yeah,
Here the resources optimization of inventory is just similar to what you talked about, how do we distribute the healthcare services.
yeah.
So that's a question, your response to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar to other questions that you have. Like when you have raw materials and finished goods, you probably want to see, given the current trends, you probably want to see, okay, does it make sense to order more stuff at this point for uh, some certain category of products? Or how is the trend like for different goods in different countries, and what people have started buying, or what people stopped buying. So if you analyze these kind of trends, I think you can try to optimize or manage your inventory using some kind of machine learning or data science. But yeah, it's a difficult problem, but that's something that you can do.
In general, the recommendation what I hear, Abhishek, is look for proxy, right? When you don't
Yeah,
have data, look for other countries, look for
yeah,
other areas. And second, there are also a lot of alternate data which could be available, right? For example, how people are searching. So what is the intent of the categories that you're operating? How are the search trends moving? Maybe, and look at those trends and maybe could be part of this thing. Now, in that context, any inputs on alternate data, we see a lot of things happening because sometimes when you can't predict, you don't have data for your own business. Let's say, for example, what's your view on alternate data in general to be used by data scientists?
that helps a lot.
Mhm.
So alternate data, you mean the data from other different sources, right?
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, sure. So yeah, that does help a lot. And if I have to give you one example, let's say you have data about locations, different locations, different cities. So alternate data would be to incorporate other factors for these cities. Or if you're trying to build a model for real estate, let's
Mm,
say you're trying to, it's a simple problem like house prices.
mm,
Everybody does that kind of problem. So what you do is you have different houses, different regions, and then you try to predict what's the price going to be next year. These kind of problems. So what kind of alternate data can you use here? If you're not provided with it, so you can use something like, okay, for this area, how many schools are there, how many hospitals are there, these kind of things. And they will because people look at these kind of things when they're buying houses, so you have to understand the business problem as well. So when you're buying property, you do look at, okay, is there a school nearby, is there a hospital nearby, how many supermarkets are there, what are the other areas adjacent to this area. So you don't want to buy a property uh, which is next which is in neighborhood of infamous area, right? So these are additional information that you can use to enhance your models. So by analyzing these kind of additional data, so not all the additional data is going to be useful to you. And when you're trying to analyze it, it's possible to gain some kind of insights to what's going beyond traditional data sources that traditional data sources are capable of providing. And yeah, I think it's quite useful when it comes to normal machine learning or data science related problems. And it just needs to be used in the right way. And you have to remember that not every kind of data is going to make your model better?
Absolutely, Abhishek. I think it's so exciting in terms of data scientists need to be so curious to know what are all the impact of the problem. What are the network of resources which can help solving a problem. So very interesting. I think one needs to be super curious, and not every data is going to help. Therefore, they have to make a judgment on what could make sense for the problem on hand. And of course, we cannot cover all of these topics in depth in a short talk like this. I think it raises the curiosity for sure. And those were the questions, Abhishek, from the audience. And what I really want to now ask is, I think a lot of people are curious to know what you're writing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Suddenly, you are all over the place. You are in YouTube, you're contributing immensely to the ecosystem, and wonderful video lessons. Now, can you talk a bit more about what the book that you are writing right now? When is it going to come? And while there are so many sources of machine learning in the market, how is it different?
Sure. Uh, but before we go to that, just to wrap this up, so like many industries are facing problem, and they might face problem due to this pandemic, right, which is going on right now. And one way would be to fix the forecast using some kind of human judgment. So people always forget that when they are building these machine learning models, they don't try to involve humans, but it's very important. And you need to modify your model, so uh, you don't have to be like a person that your model is the best and it's always going to perform well, but you have to give it some space and modify the model, introduce some kind of biases if they fix your if they fix this curve, or and try to iterate this process, fix biases on current situations, and learn from other countries and learn how they have bounced back and how you can too. And you also have to analyze the changes in the behavior of consumers. So I just wanted to say that there are some points that one should take care of during these times. So now coming back to the book thing that you asked. So yeah, I'm writing a book called Approaching Almost Any Machine Learning Problem. And there are a lot of different types of books which cover a lot of theory, so I'm not going to do that. So instead I'm going to focus on applied machine learning and how you can uh, build models for different types of machine learning problems that you might get. So it's kind of a good starting point for people who are starting in data science, because I get this question all the time: what kind of project should I do, what should I do to improve my resume, or on my GitHub account, how should I write good code? So I'm writing about these things.
Got it. Abhishek, I think first of all, really thank you for your time for this, sparing your time for this talk. And we many a times wonder, right, how are you able to manage leading data science of a company which is fast growing and participate in competition, not just participate, win over and be the world's best. And at the same time, you do so much of contribution to the ecosystem of data scientists and business professionals like us. And wonderful having you here on this talk. I'm sure it's going to help everybody. Of course, it just increases the curiosity, and people are looking forward to your new release. And I'm sure you will get a lot of questions as we go along.
Sure. And thank you very much for inviting me. It was a fun talk and I really liked it.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I thank everybody who has given their questions here. I hope we are able to do justice for those questions. In case you want a deeper answer on any of these, please write to me or Abhishek, and he is very visible in the social media.
Sure.
And stay safe, everybody, and thank you very much once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.